So welcome everyone to a little impromptu class that Marcia Wade, the Star Sister Astrologer, and myself, Natalie Cutsforth, intuitive healer and teacher, are being called to offer. And part of that call is what we wanted to start with individually. So just to share with you what my personal call was for connecting with Marcia again, and bringing something to you all. What I have found is in the last few weeks, I had this inner nudge that was saying, we need each other, and things that were occurring at the time that Marcia and I taught together 3 years ago are really coming to a certain type of fruition, that we were preparing ourselves for this time at the 2017 and 2018 eclipse cycles, and that we need those tools and we need to remember them, and that we need each other. And so in that, I reached out to Marcia and said, what do you think? Shall we co-create something again? Because I feel the community needs it, and that we need each other. And so that's the call I heeded when we started this conversation just a couple weeks ago. So if you didn't get a lot of forenotice on this, it's because we didn't have a lot of forenotice in our hearing the call from the divine. We just connected and had time to say, okay, yes, let's just do it. And so thank you for being here. And we are recording this so the people that can't be here can benefit from it. So I'm going to pass it over to Marcia, and I'm going to go ahead and pin her video so she can share how she's experiencing this time. You're pinned. You just need, oh, I can unmute you. Do you want me to? There we go. Oh.
Now.
There we
can
go.
You hear me now? Okay, so you pinned my video. How do I access the slides?
We're not talking slides yet. I'm just
Oh, we're just talking about why we're coming together.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on a train flying behind at the last minute, not just only of this, but really these last few weeks since we've come to this turning point in a year that is, if there's one word to describe what is happening within us all and around us all this year, it's metamorphosis. And I've really thought so often in the years since Natalie and I came together to dive into the energies of the 2017, the August 2017 total solar eclipse. I have thought so often of the work we did together, of the connections we made, and I have felt that energy like a thread leading us from that moment to this. And as we were talking about the call that we both, when Natalie reached out, I was an instant yes. And I've realized even more, focusing on the connections between the eclipse that happened in August of 2017 and the one that's happening this weekend are more profound even than I realized until I started really looking at the patterns between them and now. And it makes me realize how guided all of us were who took part in that experience, and how relevant what we did then still is for what we're facing now as we step much deeper into the unknown. And so I'm really excited to be here. I feel what we're going to do today is both take a look back and remember the power of what we did then, of what we set in motion. Whether or not you were in that group with us in August 2017, or whether you've connected with us since then, you are part of that journey if you've been working with Natalie and I, because that journey we took 3 years ago has really shaped who we have become and where we have gone since. So we're going to look at what we did then, and how powerful it is for where we are now. And in a minute, we're going to start by looking at where we are now and what a potent time this is. And then we're going to zero in to some of the skills and practices that we began working with 3 years ago.
Thank you, Marcia. I'm going to switch back over to me for a minute. And that was perfect. Yes, what Marcia mentioned is that she's going to lead in with the astrology, and then we're going to weave that into what we were preparing ourselves for. As she said, even if you weren't in our courses at that time, I believe almost everyone on the planet was aware and in some way participating with this 2017 eclipse specifically, because it was on the radar of our globe more than almost any other eclipse in history. So before we get into that, though, as those of you who know me realize, we've got to meditate together, because that's how we all get present and own our space and get clear, so that whatever you hear, you know it's your truth or not your truth. Because like Marcia and I discussed before we came together, is that we don't have to agree. And in fact, our world needs examples of having clear information and not having to agree with one another. So, and loving each other in the midst of it. So take your moment, please, to close your eyes and take a deep breath with me. And notice that you're here, you got here, whether you're here live or you're watching it later, you're here. And I just want you to bring your attention to your connection as a body and a spirit with Earth, that grounding cord from the base of your spine that goes all the way down through the layers of maybe the building you're in, into the layers of the dirt and rock in the earth, until it finds this beautiful crystal cave deep in the planet that is there just for you to wrap your roots around. If you'd like to see your grounding cord like a tree trunk, or maybe you want to plug into it if it's like a power cord. Just notice you are here connected to the earth energy, and it's a source for you of stability and flexibility as a spirit in a body. And then bring your attention to that space around your physical energy field, your aura bubble. And just notice it. Is it really close to you to protect you, or because it feels safer if it's tucked up close, or is it way out there so that you can feel into what's happening in the world around you? I just invite you in this moment to bring it back to this beautifully balanced space around your body, which is about arm's distance away at the tips of your finger, your energetic field. And do that by giving your aura bubble a color. You might want to make it peach or strawberry red. You might want to make it a beautiful blueberry blue, or a let's see, a grape green. Let's go with fruit today. So whatever inspires you, whatever feels good for your energy field, just set that, imagine there's that aura bubble is painted this color to define where your energy begins and ends, and really solidify that clear energetic field that you have as your space. Even imagine tucking it into your root, tucking that into your grounding cord. And now bring your attention to your center of head, between your ears, behind your eyes, that sixth chakra, your psychic space, your intuitive third eye. And let's just clean out that center of head space of any other energy that's not you. So take a moment to get the fire hose out and just give it a good hose down, clearing any debris out of the center of your head that's not in present time, that's not yours, that's maybe out in the past or in the future, or someone else's energy. And if you have someone that keeps popping into your head, just put them in a bubble and send them back to themselves and pop that bubble over their head to reclaim your psychic space. And now I want you to visualize that you are going to fill yourself up with some really good energy before we start this class by seeing a big golden sun above your head and magnetically drawing your energy back to it from any place you're ready to reclaim it from, as well as putting a big bucket full of some vibrational frequency you would like to experience into that golden sun. Maybe it's ease, maybe it's clarity, maybe it's playfulness, maybe it's courage, whatever that good energy is. Just fill your golden sun up with it and reach up and pop it and watch that energy fill you up from the top of your head, down your neck, into your shoulders, your arms, hands, and fingertips, filling in your heart, your belly, your hips, and all the way down your legs into the soles of your feet and tips of your toes. So every cell is vibrating at your own essence. And you can even see it extend out around your body in your aura bubble to fill up all that energy field with this good vibrational frequency. Filling yourself up with good energy. And now I want you to reassess that connection to the earth, but instead of looking at your grounding cord, send your attention down deep into the earth, that molten core of the planet, as a source of energy that's available to help you heal, clean out your energy field, and restore your vibrational field. And start seeing energy come up from the center of this planet Earth into the soles of your feet, up your leg channels, through your knees, through your thighs, into your hips. And watch that energy swirl around in your hips, that root chakra. And send 80% of it back down your grounding cord to create this cycle of earth energy that's really grounding and cleaning you out and filling you up. And then in your mind's eye, notice that right way up in the stars, way above your head, way in the cosmos, deep, deep into the cosmos, there's this source of energy available to you. And just start seeing that cosmic energy flow down from deep in space, down to earth, down into the top of your head, and down the two channels, those cosmic energy channels on each side of your spine. Again, filling you up and cleaning out anything that's not in present time with that cosmic energy. As that energy flows down the side of both sides of your spine, down your back, all the way down until it reaches that root chakra and starts swirling around with that earth energy. Such good energy when all those cosmic and earth particles are dancing together. And just send about 20% of that cosmic energy down your grounding cord as well to assist the earth energy and its transformative power. And then take the rest of it, that combination, you don't have to overthink it, of 20% earth and 80% cosmic, up the front side of your body. And as it goes past each chakra, it's going to spin them into balance at the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions. And see that earth and cosmic energy come up the front of the body, in the root, in that first chakra, your survival space, food, shelter, energy. Watch that energy get spinned into balance and filled up and cleaned out. Moving up to your second, right below your belly button, your creative, your sexual energy, your empathic sensitivity. Watch that chakra spin, get cleaned out and reset by this earth and cosmic. Bringing it up to your solar plexus. This is the spicy spot that most of us have to engage with, our personal power, our will, how we manifest, and just see that energetic center gets reset and cleaned out by the earth and cosmic energies. flowing up the front of your body to your heart, really inviting your heart to receive this healing that's offered by the earth and cosmic energies, any cleaning out any areas that need to be released, and refilling with that frequency of divine connection between earth and cosmic. Watch that energy flow up through your throat chakra, your voice, your communication space, and spin it and rebalance it and clean it out. And sending a little bit of that energy down your arm channels, those creative channels that comes out and flows out of the palms of your hands. Then it continues up to spin that space, that chakra, the third eye, the sixth chakra, the center of head, where you get to see clearly, use your analytical mind and get intuitive information. Cleaning it out, resetting it. And then up through your crown, that connection to source energy, your direct line of information for you personally as a soul. Let that chakra get spinned and cleaned out. So it's just your information. And watch that cosmic and earth energy just fountain out the top of your head. Wonderful. When you're ready, you can just take a deep breath and open your eyes and stretch. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes to you and listening to all this cosmic and earth energy we have. I'm going to pass it over to Marcia, and I'm going to go ahead and pin your screen, Marcia, and turn the slides on, okay? Pin. You haven't unmuted yet.
Thank you.
There you go. Hold on. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. There we go. And
Okay. Now,
I hope I'm going to put the videos in a place where you can see the slides just okay, y'all. But for now, I can't get it to show just the two of us. It'll show 4 people unless it's one person. Oh, that might work. Let's try that. I can see you, Marcia.
okay, I see you too, but I'm not able to control the slides.
You can't. I have to.
Oh, okay. So you drive.
I'm your assistant.
I'll talk.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. So this year of 2020 is a year no one alive has ever experienced a year like this. Astrologically, I mean, honestly, no one has ever experienced, no one who's ever been alive has experienced a year like this. But astrologically, they're the closest that we can come to finding a time like the one we're living through is the time around just before, during, and just after the 13th century and the 14th century, the 1300s. That's how long it's been since human beings have experienced what we or anything like what we are experiencing today. And that's why 2020 it's a metamorphosis bridge. It's a metamorphosis bridge into a reality that no one has ever experienced before. We are truly taking a quantum leap. We can look at our next slide, and what I'm going to talk about are some of the astrological signals from the cosmos that this is a year we want to pay attention. We don't want to think that anything is happening is a mistake, an accident, an inconvenience. We want to see ourselves as in the midst of an enormous mystery. And the more we realize the profound power of this year, the more I feel we'll realize that the most important thing is to be present for what is happening this year, because it's happening for a reason, all of it. Now, one of our signals is that this is a year that began as it will end, with a game-changing eclipse. Now, I've actually put two images here. One is of the one on the left of your screen is an image of the Ring of Fire eclipse, solar eclipse, that happened in the last days of 2019. On December 25th and 26th, depending on your time zone, we had a solar eclipse in 4 degrees of Capricorn. And many people, including myself, really see the beginning of the new year as the winter solstice. So in some ways, that eclipse preceded this profound period of metamorphosis. And then the eclipse image on the right of your screen is the image of the total solar eclipse that will happen on December 14th of this year. And in January, 2 weeks after that solar eclipse, we had a lunar eclipse, which was also game-changing. And we can look at our next slide now. That lunar eclipse happened 2 days before, and all eclipses, just the fact that this year began and ends with, no matter whether you look at the year beginning with the solar eclipse just days after the winter solstice, or with the lunar eclipse in the first 2 weeks of the calendar year, 2020 started out with a powerful, it had an eclipse turbocharge. It will end with a powerful eclipse turbocharge. And just a reminder that eclipses are the most powerful of new and full moons. They operate at a much higher energetic voltage. And it's because eclipses happen when the sun, the moon, and the earth are lined up, as they are at every new and full moon. But at eclipses, they're lined up with these two energy gates that open at the places where you see the moon's path cross the path of the earth as she moves around the sun. Those two intersection points are destiny gates. And when the sun, moon, and earth all line up near those gates, everybody on the planet is getting a destiny reset. And this year begins and ends with destiny resets. And our next slide takes us to January 12th. What happened 2 days after that lunar eclipse that took place on January 10th? Saturn, our reality gatekeeper, conjoined Pluto, the tiny planet at the far edge of the solar system who catalyzes the process of death and rebirth that we know as transformation. Every transformation involves a death of something that is completed and the birth of something new. And Pluto is present one way or another in every metamorphosis. And every time Pluto is in the building, we know it's time for something to die so that something new can be reborn. And when Saturn conjoins Pluto, we know that what is being born is a more powerful and transformative reality. Now, Saturn and Pluto conjoin every few decades, every 35 to 37 years. But they haven't conjoined in Capricorn, which is the most Saturn-like sign in the zodiac, the sign where things become very real and very lasting, in over 500 years. And that conjunction occurred on January 12th, 2020. The numerology that day is an 8. transformation. That was the beginning of 2020. A reality transforming seed was created. On December 21st, the winter solstice. Oops, I made a typo here. It's not Saturn conjuncting Pluto on the winter solstice. It's Saturn conjoining Jupiter on the winter solstice. And Saturn and Jupiter are the two largest planets in our solar system. The ancients call these two planets the two gurus. They come together every 20 years. That's not the super rare part. It's important when they come together. The ancients call these the great conjunctions. Every time they happen, we get an upgrade individually and collectively in our understanding of the kinds of structures that we need to have in place to be able to access abundance, to be able to access wisdom, to be able to access grace. And this conjunction that is taking place in December 2020 is going to happen in the most visionary and big picture and future oriented of all the signs in the zodiac, Aquarius. And it will be the first of 200 years of Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions in the big picture idealistic air signs. After 218 years of Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions in earth signs. Every Jupiter-Saturn conjunction but one since 1802 has been in an earth sign, and it is a telling commentary on our relationship with the earth, that these are the 200 years when we have polluted, pillaged, and raped our planet as never before. And what happens in the last of these 218 years? Does the earth punish us? She could have. Saturn and Pluto in earth signs are associated with traumatic earth events. And I was not the only astrologer bracing myself for a massive tsunami, earthquake, some kind of huge climate event. But what happened instead is, and I don't want to minimize the suffering economically and to the lives of people who have been directly impacted by the COVID virus. But for most of the humans on the planet, what happened was we were sent to our rooms to watch as the earth cleared the filth out of the river Ganges, cleared the skies over every major city in the world, closed the hole in the ozone layer over the Arctic, brought the sea turtles by the thousands to the Pacific beaches to breed. It's like she was saying to us, just stop, just watch, just take this in. And obviously, she's not done, and we're not done. We're still taking that in. But when we switch, and the earth sign conjunctions are marked by being very practical, very realistic. Let's deal with what is, not with what could be, not with what should be, but with what is. That's all about to change. We're about to have what is known as a grand mutation. We're about to have a reality mutation. And it's coming through our emotional intelligence. It's coming through our intuitive intelligence. It's not coming through our cranial brain. It's not coming through our brilliant left brains. It's coming through our lunar intelligence. How do we know that? This year, this metamorphosis portal is a year when we're having 6 eclipses, not the usual 4. We're having, and 4 of them are lunar eclipses. This metamorphosis is all about tuning into our intuition, tuning into our cellular intelligence, listening to our dreams, and releasing everything that is just dead skin now. The whole point of this year is to let go of everything that's preventing us from taking life on this planet, our lives, and the life of the world to the next level. We look at the next slide. We see that what is happening from began in May and really intensified in mid-June, and it's going to continue until the middle of November, the longest period of multiple simultaneous retrogrades in over 400 years. Every couple of years, we have a year where every single planet goes retrograde, never for as long as this year. We will have at least 5 planets retrograde from the middle of June until November 13th. Next slide. Intensifying the metamorphosis. So this reality change that's happening is very personal, but it is not for any of us only personal. We are fractals in a collective process. And our next slide shows where or speaks to where the focal point of this global metamorphosis is. It's being felt everywhere, but the USA is the target. And the reason we know that is that all of the 17 eclipses happening between August 2017 and December 2020, every single one of them activates a planet or a key point in the US chart. Each one of those activations has been and will be a destiny reset for this country. That's 17 consecutive destiny resets in 3 years. And it's happening as this country is beginning something no human individual ever experiences, its first Pluto return. The US is going through a death and rebirth. And at the same time, we're moving into, as a nation, the US is moving into its second Neptune opposition and will soon be having its 5th Chiron and Uranus returns. It's like a total massive Phoenix rising process already in the early stages, which the Phoenix only rises after it is completely burned in the ashes. And our next slide is about the solar eclipse that we had 2 weeks ago, because this lunar eclipse that's happening this weekend is bringing revelations of the seed that was created in your personal consciousness and in our collective consciousness on the Cancer solstice. This was a very rare solar eclipse. It was the first time since the 14th century, since the 1300s, that anyone had experienced a solar eclipse in zero Cancer. And in the 1300s, there were 2 of those. They happened 19 years apart. This solar eclipse on the summer solstice was the second also of two eclipses in zero Cancer. The first one, and let us remember what zero Cancer is, the first most potent degree of the sign that is the energy of the mother of the universe. We're talking the divine mother. We're talking the cosmic mother. We're talking the energy of creation being activated in every one of us. And from the 1300s until June of 2001, every summer solstice came and went, and there was never an eclipse. June 2001 was the last solar eclipse before September 11th. And if we look at the next slide, we see the Sabian symbol. The Sabian symbols, and there's several different symbol sets there. I think of them almost as energetic tarot cards for the cosmos. Every degree has its own symbol. And the Sabian symbol, this is the oldest set, is of sailors on a ship lowering an old flag and raising a new one. That eclipse 2 weeks ago was telling us it's time to change our allegiance, what we are for, what we are pledged to, because we're at a point of no return. And in zero Cancer, we know that the allegiance that we're pledging, that we're asked now to pledge, is to what is new and precious and tender and in need of our love, our care, and our attention. The good future in you, in me, and on our planet. And our next slide takes us to the eclipse that's happening this weekend that is bringing to the surface the revelations of all that has happened, both in the 2 weeks since the summer solstice, but also in the 19 years since 2001. Something was started on 2001. Something ended on 2001. Now it's time to take that to a new level, to a new awareness, to a new level of responsiveness to our destinies, because we are the ones who are alive at this rare and potent time. This eclipse on Saturday is the last of 8 solar and lunar eclipses that have happened in the signs of Capricorn, which is the signs of the deep reality structures, and the sign of Cancer, which is the sign that births and creates and nurtures new life within us and among us. It's happening in 13 degrees of Capricorn. It is exactly across the sky with the sun of the US. It is inviting for all of us who live in the US. This is an invitation to come into a more conscious relationship with the country that we are part of, whose energy field we impact. And it's also the solar eclipse on the summer solstice. Eclipses go into long cycles called Saros cycles. And the solar eclipse that this moon is ripening out of started 700 years ago in the 1300s. But this Saros cycle of the lunar eclipse, it began in June 1984. Something is beginning, a growing awareness. This is only the 3rd eclipse in this series. These are long cycles. They last over 1,000 years. It is charged to us to seed the field. It doesn't matter what we do that anyone else knows about. The energy of our thoughts, of our intentions, go out into the field. They ripple through like that butterfly in the Bay Area who affects the weather in Sweden. We have the same power to shift and impact the energy field of our planet with our own intention, with our own vibration. And we know, because of these Saros cycles, the intentions, the vibrations, the decisions and choices that we are making now, this week, next week, and in the months to come, they will be felt for millennia. It's a great responsibility that we accepted when we took birth. So it's time to release what's outworn from that time, 2001. It's time to take our lives and our world, our values, um, our wisdom to the next level. And is there a next slide? That might be the last one. Oh, at the grand mutation. Here's the slide about that. So this eclipse, this week, this weekend, this is the turning point. You know, we have made our way from that reality transforming seed that took the COVID virus. I'm not going to say the Saturn Pluto conjunction created it because it was already here, but it took it and turned it into something transformative. Something so transformative that it would slow us down, send us deep enough that we can be the spaces where a reality mutation can occur. And I think that is the last slide, isn't it, Natalie? That takes us into our discussion of what that means for us now and how prepared we really are for this moment and how long we have known that we needed to be prepared. And with that, I'll hand it over to Natalie.
And I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute so that I can switch over. Thank you, Marcia. That really put things in context. And one of the things the two of us had talked about before coming together is how this balancing of having a framework to understand the reality we are in that astrology can help us with, and then also having the tools, the energy tools to work with the energies that are happening are so necessary right now for all of us to really have both of those things, the framework so we can make sense of it and have an understanding what we're in, and also having some tools to work with it. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into talking a little bit about what we, let's see, there we go. All right, back to the conversation at hand. So, like I had said earlier, the reason that I was feeling inspired to reconnect is that I really started to go, wow, what we were thinking about in 2017 and 18, even though we had these ideas that this is a potent moment, we really didn't know what it was going to bring forth in us. But we did listen to that inner nudge that it was important to pay attention. And I feel like even if you were in the course that we taught together, some of this stuff will be a reminder to you of what we. And I'm a big believer that I need to be reminded over and over again because I remember and forget many things in life. So it was actually quite a wonderful reminder for me to revisit this material. And then for all of us to consider, what were you intentionally preparing for? What intentions did you set at that time? What presence do you during that time period? So I'm going to cover the main topics that we addressed and how they sort of relate to what we're doing now. And what we looked at in 2017 and 18 is our soul vows, our connection with why we're here and who we're doing it with. We looked at how energy and power work and our personal power, in that sense of personal power, and how we exchange energy. We worked on some heart-centered intentions because we've been in a society where the head, the mind, the science of things has led the way and always gets to be the final answer. And it really is, in order for us to survive and heal, and our heart actually needs to have a stronger voice in this reality transformation we're in. And then the cycle of breakthrough, and how that breakthrough process is actually part of what our souls come here to do on earth and as we evolve. And so as Marcia already talked about that turning point eclipse cycle that we're in, one of the topics I want to just bring to the forefront that Marcia and I spoke about before creating this is that we really are in a time of we rather than me. We've been in such a cycle of people. We've, you know, what do I need? What do I need to heal in myself? How can I get my needs taken care of? Me. And it's just, you know, it's been a luxury, I suppose, that's been part of our having the resources we need on the planet, having the time to reflect and look at ourselves psychologically and emotionally. But right now we're in this collective transformation where we really have the we is so important. The community, the connection, the way we do this together is going to change whether it actually we can survive as humans or not on this planet, right? We have to actually come together, as irritating as it is at times, and also as lovely as it is at times, and to face those unknown mysteries, to face what is really this profound time that we're in right now that is saying, hey, you don't get to know. There's a whole lot of questions there's no answers to, and we have to surrender into that unknown and then take that negative energy or the energy of fear and limitation or sense that we're being suppressed or any of those negative energies, and instead of just engage with them in that energetic push-pull, which will actually feed the negative or the polarization energy, we have to find ways to compost that energy and churn it into something that's as fertile, like, you know, fertilizer for what we're growing next in order for us to heal. So let me just, that was the overview. So I'm just going to go a little deeper into each of these topics that we looked at in a few years ago and that are still extremely relevant now that we're part of our preparation process. And this conversation around our soul vows, and what my belief is, and as I look at things as from the psychic perspective, is that each of our souls have come into this lifetime with an intention about different experiences we want to have. They might relate to what our purpose is for being here on the planet. They could have to do with our spirit to spirit agreements with other souls. That's to revisit or finish unfinished experiences with other souls that we've been in connection with in other lifetimes, to heal certain stuff, to rebalance the karma based. And I think of karma as not a negative or positive thing, but just an energetic. And so in karma, there is always these opportunities for us to either like neutralize them or rebalance them when we're here in a body. And then also part of our soul vows is calling in those agreements in others, even if they're not new to this, to us as a soul, where we have a match so that we can help ourselves learn through that match, like healing a belief system, or we have a matching wound, which brings a relationship together at the wound level. And then hopefully we can actually take that into a healing of the wound rather than a replication or repeat of that wound in our soul agreement. So those soul vows are what I want to say about the soul vows and where we are at in the world at this time, as well as the astrological component. To me, it has become very, very apparent in the last few months that I chose to be here now, that I said those words before in my life, that I knew my soul had a purpose for being here right now on the planet with what was happening, even with things that are very discouraging at times. I know my personal purpose here as a soul is to help with the healing. And I had to spend a lot of years in my own life doing my own healing to be able to have the extra resources to be able to do that work. And so when I'm going to turn 50 in a month, and I've just been reflecting on that divine timing of my soul coming in when it did, so it could be at the state of I'm in right now when this is happening. Because although I believe we can change our destiny, that we have free will, I also know that there are certain cycles of energy and that this has been coming for a long time. What's happening right now on our planet has been coming for a long time. It just didn't start in December last year, or and as Marcia explained with the astrology, it is part of these much longer cycles. And as a soul, how is your, like, can you really look at that for yourself? What is your soul doing here right now? Did you consciously choose to be here? I believe that you did. And so it's important to look at it and sort of reflect on that. So for me, one of the things that we covered and that I want to remind you all of around those soul vows is that you have the power, you created them at some point in your soul's experience. So you have the power to update them, change them, end them, create new ones. And the three things that are sort of part of that is adjustments, like in those agreements. Is there some sort of time adjustment or energy adjustment or resource adjustment that could be part of the update or the changing of an agreement that you have with some other person? It's relationship shifts, like if you're a child and you have parents, and most of us do, some of them aren't living still, you have these changes that happen over time where you become an adult, then your relationship shifts and your agreement is now more two adults, hopefully. And then over time, your relationship shifts again and your parent needs you to help care for them. And so there's these agreement shifts that shift over time, and we need to bring them into present time in order for us to keep a sense of our own power and not feeling like they're pulling us into a past way of being. And a big piece of our soul vow realignments, in my perspective, is shifting our boundaries as we learn and evolve new. And specifically for you that are in this world of looking at things from the other dimension and the spirit dimension, is that we have this opportunity with our soul vows to reset those boundaries with others. And how our energy is exchanged with them in a way that helps us be fulfilled as in this lifetime. So it's dynamic, it's evolving. You always have a choice with your soul vows, and when you bring them into light, when you become conscious of what's happening and look at them, you're actually giving them an opportunity to grow and evolve. So on the topic of energy and power, that was another one of our key areas that we honed in on at that time 2 or 3 years ago that is so relevant for right now. I just want to remind you that you are born with a certain energetic power in your field, and you get to use that, exchange it out there in the world with others. And when you are in balance, you are exchanging, giving and receiving, and exchanging that. But when you're encountering things like people courting you or hooking or other ways that our energy gets drained, then our energy doesn't feel like our own a lot of times because we feel it's affected. And I want to just bring this topic up around what's happening in the United States right now with our government. And because my personal experience has been the way that the energy is being run at the political level is a suppression entity. It's an energy that suppresses, and when it suppresses, it's sort of like suffocating something, so that we actually have all these skills that we can't access. So, and when a suppression energy is running, it's one to many. So, but what happens is it gets fed by someone being angry at it, and it gets fed by someone being supportive of it. It still doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, but it gets fed by any energy that's directed at it. So the way we reclaim our power in the face of that kind of suppression energy is to create neutrality. And it doesn't mean we don't have a stance and don't take a stand for something. What it does mean is that we hold neutrality in our energy field so that we're not feeding that energy. So this is a, part of why we needed to prepare our awareness around how our energy is exchanged, and why we still have to keep learning and learning. It's a lesson that I know that I continue to learn over and over again in my life, because part of my family agreements that I came in with are some very powerful people that like to, court or vampire energy in order to get stuff done. And so that was like an early learning for me. So a balanced exchange of energy leaves you focused, peaceful, energized, but one that's unbalanced is what creates the sense of being scattered, anxious, or depleted. And when I look at the flow of energy in the chakras, I see that we receive up from the earth, sort of like what we were doing in our practice, and that creation, you know, foundation, creation, manifestation in the lower three chakras. And then we get this energy down from the cosmos, from our source energy, vision, intuition, expression, and they meet in our heart. And when we can let those energies meet in our heart, then what we lead with in our lives is a very powerful and healing energy force, no matter what we're facing. So another little tidbit that was really fun for that topic of uniting in the heart that I wanted to remind you of is that when you're going to create something, it's really important that you have a solid foundation, like that grounded energy we worked with at the beginning, that there's creative energy flowing in your second chakra, and that it actually gets to flow up. So foundation, the energy in the second chakra gets to then flow up to your solar plexus, because your solar plexus is where you actually take the energy out into the world to manifest. So when you feel someone hooking or cording your energy, often that is wanting some of your energy, they're going to hook you in your solar plexus, and you'll feel that in your gut. And connection, our soul alignment, it's really, for me, the goal that all of us have here is to stay aligned with our soul. And when we're in line with our soul, that means we're getting that information through our crown from our higher self. We are seeing it clearly through our third eye and not feeling doubt about it. And then we're able to speak that truth. So this is the just a quick little slide of what we practiced at the beginning, which is something we all worked on in anybody that's in my membership group and anybody that was in the classes that we did 2 or 3 years ago, is set our energy by grounding, putting that bubble up, clearing our center of head space, and filling in. And it's not, there's no requirement that you do them in a certain order. I tend to go with ground, bubble, clear out the center of my head, and then fill in. But sometimes we clear out the center of our head before doing the bubble, whatever works for you. So a key piece where I've been continuing to evolve insights is that we talked about is how we lose our energy. And I touched on this just now when I talked about feeling that suppression energy and how it can keep us from actually accessing what we already know and what we're skilled at, because it creates that pressure that limits our circulation and information energetically. So there's a lot of different types of energy losses. Some of them, they're always directional. If it's a energy hook that's not reciprocal, right? Like a cord, it's going to someone else. A hook is someone else hooking into you, right? So that cord could actually be either direction. You could be getting something from someone else, or they could be getting something for you, but this is not a reciprocal energy exchange. An example of a hook is sort of, if like someone is willing to have their energy hooked in you, but they won't communicate with you directly. They're ghosting you, or they're not responding to you, but you feel their energy in your psychic space, or hooked in your, like you feel it in your body somewhere. Or if someone is a vampire, they're gonna like actually, I see it like a cord where they cord and redirect. So they take your energy and then they point it somewhere they want it to go, rather than you getting to direct where that energy goes. And the cord, the cord is someone that's trying to fill themselves up with you, because they can't fill themselves up on their own. They don't know how to resource their energy, like we just looked at in that diagram, where you ground, you bubble, you clear your space and call it in. They don't know how to do that in any form, in a way that's sustainable, or they have energy leaks, and so they're looking to fill their energy with someone else. Another way that we can lose energy is through people that expect us to process their emotions. Like they're angry, they want us to be angry. They're sad, they want us to be sad for them. And then they're sort of leeching energy and you feel drained after spending time with them. So I've expanded this area a lot in my studies in the last few years to where I have like 13 different ways that I see energy move between people and how we can learn how to stop those energy leaks. So one of the big things that we're dealing with right now is not relative to one specific other person, but to the collective. So typically there's a million different emotional experiences and energetic experiences happening, billions happening in the world at the same time. But right now there's a concentration of a big concentration of certain type of energies: health fear, money fear, fear of not knowing, this whole fear, grief. There's a lot of depression happening right now. And those big chunks of people feeling that same energy, just like we can shift the reality that we're in by up-leveling our vibration, when there's big chunks of people in those spaces, it shifts the reality for everybody around them because we feel it as empathically. And so our big job right now is to do the best we can to hold our space and clean out those collective energies so that we can be in our information and our truth, not in the energetic wave of what's ever happening out there in the world around us. So I'm just, some of the tools that we looked at is clearing energy losses, how you can cut a cord with someone and connect that cord back to the supreme being or God source energy to get, to move if you feel somebody has corded you or has a hook in your energy field. There's also ways that we can dissolve or move energy by putting it into a rose to clear it out if we're encountering a vampire or a leech kind of energy. And then we can also use liquid gold to clean out those wounds. And this, I'm not going to go into the details on this. A lot of you that are in my group know how to use these tools, but these are powerful tools that are simply have what is required to use them is seniority, which means that you are clear that this is a truth that you can change your experience by setting your intentions, and you do it through visualization, because your visualization is moving energy. And then we have to fill our cup, right? We have to fill our energetic cup. And so these things around clearing out energy, setting our space, and filling our cup are foundational to our getting through this time that we're in right now. And by setting that sense of awareness about what those were a few years ago, we're now in a place where hopefully for a lot of us, they've become automatic. So the topic of breakthrough, I know I'm jumping around a bit here, but I just wanted to grab little pieces of what we were looking at that time and show how they're relevant right now. Because as you look at each of these, you're seeing that, wow, this is actually really what we're dealing with, right? So why our souls love breakthrough? Well, my experience is that they love breakthrough because we are a naturally healing organism, that we're self-healing. Something happens and, like I have a little scratch on my arm from, working in the yard, and my body knows how to heal that. And so breakthrough is a way for our system to fix something that isn't working anymore. Our souls want to evolve. Our soul wants to resolve unresolved experiences. That's part of our healing nature as souls. And we want equanimity. So it's a sense of wanting things to be in balance. There are also these soul vows that we talked about, that when we have a breakthrough, it's an opportunity to update those agreements, because we're changing our reality. And it really re-energizes us. I find that when you've been pushing against something and you feeling like that crunchiness of like, there's something that needs to change and maybe I can't see it, or maybe I do see it and I don't know how it's going to change. When the breakthrough happens, it releases a whole bunch of energy for us to use in the creation process. So I see the breakthrough cycle like this. Here's the old way that no longer works, and we have resistance to change, which is pretty normal. Everybody was like, oh, this is familiar and I'm used to it, even if it sucks, let's just keep doing it. So there's this resistance to change, and then a breakthrough happens, and then we get to transform. We see the energy transform, and we have a new way. And then it happens again. There's something that doesn't work, and we resist it, and we have a breakthrough, and then it transforms, and we have a new way. And we're really at that juncture right now on the planet, with our relationship with the earth itself, with our relationship with governance, with our relationship with money, and with our relationship with health. All of those are stirred up because the old ways are not working, and we need to create a new way. We need to transform our monetary agreements. We need to transform our way that we take care of health within our community and as individuals. We need to transform our way that the government is structured to be inclusive with the people that are being led. So there's all of it. It's sort of crazy that we're dealing with all of these at once, but as Marcia said, it's not surprising. We knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know what it was going to look like. So we're in this, when you're preparing for a breakthrough, it feels uncomfortable. It feels scary. It feels irritating. It's bumpy, painful. One of the stories I like to tell is that my first mentor out of college at my first office job, he was a foster parent, him and his wife, for 30 babies over the course of their time being foster parents, and they had for their own kids. And he said whenever a change was getting ready to happen, a first step, a new tooth, a first word, there was irritability, because that was the infant was like getting uncomfortable. The old way's not working anymore. They're irritated, they're fussy, they're grumpy. And then it happens, and there's this huge relief, and they're not irritated, grumpy, and fussy anymore, because they took a step, they said a word, they made their breakthrough. So really, transformation is a exchange of energy, and that's why this energy and power topic was connected. When they're in the world of physics, nothing is created and destroyed around energy, it just changes form. And the same is true with us. My belief is the sixth sense is being able to read energy, to see something that sense something in our whole being, in every cell of our body. That's energy, rather than sensing it with one specific organ. And when energy changes form, there's always that stage of resistance. But it's actually a good sign. So if you're feeling irritated or resistant, or you don't know what to do, and you're feeling with what's happening in the world right now, you don't know where your spot is or how to do the new, and without, what's that relationship between the old and the new. You're in the right spot. You're onto something. That's where we need to be. Because if you're, when we're stuck, we get into that stagnant, flat, predictable energy. But when we're actually feeling the resistance, feeling that agitation, we're getting ready in that active state of discomfort, in that dis-ease or uneasy feeling, to have that breakthrough, to transform. And we're all doing it together right now. So it's really huge. It's amazing. So what we think is a breakdown is really a breakthrough. Like, we're seeing structures in our society break down. That's a breakthrough. We're preparing for breakthrough. It's an opportunity to propel ourselves. But it requires, like Marcia said when she was showing us what's happening astrologically, this releasing our attachment to what worked in the past, so that the new can be reborn. And hopefully we don't have to be forced to do it in a way that causes us more suffering. Because if we actually refuse, then it's going to be harder. Of course, there's going to be some resistance, because we don't know what to do next, and we're comfortable. But if we resist it to the extreme, where we actually are unbudging and unwilling to transform, it will be catastrophic. So really, the opportunity for each of us in our soul vows, and as we're doing this work as spirits in a body, in the cosmos and on earth, is that we get to change, we get to update and change and release those beliefs that have been programmed into us through our family, through our past lives. So we get to have the opportunity to, as you know, if you've done a private session with me, clear those pictures about what it looks like that are in the unconscious, that have been operating that we didn't even realize. They're being brought into the light so that we can update them or release them if they no longer are relevant. We also get the opportunity in our soul vow update to reprogram our programming or release programming, those automatic responses that help us navigate life that aren't working anymore. They might be spiritual genetic inheritance that have passed down from many lines in our family, or they might be something we created for ourselves just to get by, but are actually going to keep us from thriving if we hold on to them. And so updating those agreements and releasing or revising our beliefs and programs are a powerful piece of what we're all going through with this breakthrough cycle. So really the evolution of our mind and our hearts is that our head is important, but our heart needs to come first. And that's part of what's being demanded of us at this time, where we all had to go, oh, well, let's all stay home. And there's this dance out there with people that are not willing to do certain things because they feel like they're losing their rights. And there's all these speculations. And I see lots of people that I trust and love and care about that are going way off into these scenarios of what's like this conspiracy theories. And it's just extreme out there because people are trying to be in control with their mind. They want their mind to have answers for what's happening, and they want to point at something, someone, or some organization that's the fault to blame. But I feel like we're really in this soup, this soup of a process where the answers aren't there yet. We're in the mysteries. There's so much that's unknown. Then we have to be patient, and we have to let our heart be the one that we listen to, not that brain that's trying to be in control or figure it out before it's time. That mind gives us perspective. We get to reflect. We get to consciously choose to make choices and change with our mind, and resolve conflicts and process our experiences. But we need to heal our judgments that the mind likes to hold on to for the heart to thrive. And that's really where we're at right now. So I'm going to stop sharing, and thank you for your patience. We had a long talk there. But I feel like it's important, and that these two areas are really powerfully connected, between these energy tools and our awareness of what our power is, and what how much we need to surrender into that breakthrough, and really like trust those crunchy moments that are coming up right now to ask us to update our soul agreements and update our beliefs and update our programming so that we can really step into this new dimension. And I want to just jump over, and I'm gonna pin Marcia for a second and let you have some feedback on that, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, that was great, Natalie. You made so many important points, and it was wonderful. And once again, every time we look back at what we did, I get chill bumps, really, how tuned in we were. The main thing I want to just underscore about what you were saying is that this is what it means when we say we're at a turning point. We're not about to, wake up and see that everything is returned to normal. We are deep in the soup, but we're at the turning point. We know now we're in the soup. It's time to really begin feeling into the reconfiguring that's happening, so we can be also, while we're in the soup, we're the leading edge of a new way of being in the world. And the other thing I want to say that I think is really important that the astrology points to over and over again, and it's implicit in everything you've been saying too, Natalie, and that is that this new way of being human, I mean, we're on an evolutionary edge. We all have some sense of where we're going, but if we really were able to hold that energy, we would be there now. The reason we're in the soup is this has to happen to us so that what is already in, so we can be changed, because the new is in here. That's where it's coming from. It's not coming from out there. And that's why it's so important to take up the kind of practices that you've been talking about and really be able to hold more energy and support the growth of the new in ourselves and in others. And the astrology is really clear. This is the turning point in an evolutionary leap. And while everything that Natalie has been talking about is powerful to do at any time, when we take full accountability for who we are and who we can be at a time when the winds of fate and destiny are behind us, what can happen is beyond what any of us can know. This really is a time of much fear as we see paradigms collapsing, but the opportunity that is waiting to emerge from within us all is even greater than what we see collapsing around us.
I agree.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's wonderful to have this time to talk this through together and really realize it even more deeply. And I thank everyone for being here with us, being part of this space. And I know Natalie and I both want to hear questions that may be coming up for you, or insights, or
yeah, let me I'm going to just say one more thing, and then what I was going to suggest is that we will stop or pause the recording when we go into the questions, so that anybody can say anything and we have privacy, because I will be sharing this video later. So we felt like it would be important to pause that recording for the question period. But before we do that, I just wanted to say, well, the form is still in the soup for us. We are co-creating a next workshop around this for the next 3 months, and we don't know. I think we're going to be starting it somewhere mid-July. We haven't locked down dates or timing yet, but we're calling it the power of the collective transformation, because there's pieces that we're both seeing that are worth watching, both astrologically and then having the accompanying community oriented energy tools for us to support each other in that process. So I just want to sort of put that out there, that there is something more coming. We'll send you an email once we know what it is.
Thank you, Natalie, for adding that in.
So I'm going to pause the recording, and then we'll go into the questioning. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story that is sort of part of the impetus for my experience of feeling called right now. And a year ago, a little over a year ago, in April last year, I went to Crete, Greece, with a retreat. And in that, while I was in Crete, I had this profound experience. While I was there, I had no, before I went there, I had no recollection particularly of a past life connection. But once I got there, soon after I arrived, I was going to bed one night, and I was closing the shutters because we were near the ocean, and there was these shutters on the windows. And as I was closing them, this cat tried to jump from the ground level up to the porch in the second story, and was trying to jump in the window. And I was like, oh no, because there's lots of feral cats there. But also I like cats, but I still didn't want to sleep with it. And I shut the shutters, I went to bed, and as I was falling to sleep, I was in that half wake, half sleep state. And that cat came to me as big as I was. It was as big as I was, and it was looking at me in the eyes, and it started pulling my tongue out and rolling it up like a scroll of paper, like an old papyrus scroll of paper. And I could feel that what it was pulling was coming from down here in my second and third chakra. It was pulling up something and it was bringing it out. And as that was rolling up, it was looking at me and it was saying, the mysteries have always been within you. They're right here. You carry them within you. And as I cried onto that scroll that this Sphinx-like cat was showing me, all of the symbols and words began to emerge. And this information around our connection with one another being part of this journey. That these mysteries that we have had suppressed in our world, that have a connection with the divine feminine being in balance with the divine masculine. While we were in Crete, Notre Dame burned to the ground. And it was not surprising on some level that I learned at that time that Isis's temple, the goddess Isis's temple, was built where Notre Dame was built, and it was built on top of it to overlay that spiritual practice, the divine feminine, with the masculine structure. And so for me, I really feel like part of what we're experiencing right now is the mysteries are being reawakened to rebalance the energies of the masculine and the feminine. And then later in my journey, so that was one piece. Before I left Europe on that trip, I had traveled to several other countries, and I was in London, and the night before I was to fly home, I had another vision dream. So I call it like sort of a waking dream where I'm half sleep, half wake state, and I get the vision. And in that vision, I saw that I didn't get to have access to all of the mysteries unless I was connected in a web with humanity, that it was a actual requirement for us to connect to access the mysteries. Because in Crete, in the ancients, they actually would give people the mysteries who had been inducted or whatever in these. They'd go into the caves and they'd spend a month or 3 months there getting a mystery, but they didn't give any one person all of the mysteries, because then they could potentially abuse their power. And so my insight as I was leaving Europe a year ago was that in order for us to really truly create this collective transformation, it's not those mysteries have to be rebirthed through our web of connection with one another, that we each hold a magical piece of it. And in our connection together is how we actually activate it and access it and heal. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And I don't know if you have anything else you want to share in closing, Marcia.
That was a really powerful closing, and I think it was the perfect energy to hold in our hearts as we leave this space to look out, hopefully with newer, fresher eyes at what's happening in the world around us and also what's happening within us.
Thank you,
I
Marcia.
love the part of your dream where it was your tears that brought the images and the sacred words into visibility, because I think that addresses what several has come up over and over in the discussion, that everything can be used for the fuel for the good future, and perhaps especially our tears.
Yeah.
It's by opening our hearts to be present, to feel the wonder and the terror of being alive in a time of transformation. I too think it is the best time to be alive. There is more real possibility of the world we all know is possible, to quote Charles Eisenstein's wonderful book. That's more possible, that's more within our reach now than it has ever been.
Mm.
And I think you're right. It's through our connections and the webs we weave and the hearts that we open, beginning with our own, that we will birth that world and then nurture it for the rest of our lives.
Mm.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you for reaching out.
Oh, thank you, Marcia.
Inspiring this beautiful time we've had this afternoon.
Well, thank you for spending this time with us. We both are very aligned in the belief that there is so much for us to collectively evolve and learn together. And so we'll be sending you some information on what's possible soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.